You could publish like the most brilliant, life-changing piece of content today, and um, mathematically speaking, no one will care.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's entirely true.
Because, well, let's be honest, the average creator strategy right now is essentially just throwing spaghetti at a wall in the dark.
Right.
You might hit the wall occasionally, but you have zero idea what's actually sticking. Or, more importantly, the underlying mechanics of why it sticks. You're just kind of hoping the algorithm blesses you.
And that's just a profoundly inefficient way to operate a business.
Yeah.
I mean, it burns through your resources and your creative energy, but doesn't give you any predictable returns.
Exactly. Which is why today's deep dive is custom designed for you. Because as a learner, you're already phenomenal at absorbing information, right? You're reading, you're listening, taking notes.
Taking all of it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our mission today is to help you systematically organize and actually output that knowledge. We're turning on the lights in that dark kitchen and building a sustainable ROI-generating engine.
We've got a massive stack of blueprints to synthesize for you today to make this happen.
Whoa, it's a big one.
Yeah, it really is. We're pulling the underlying architecture from HubSpot strategy guides, Automate's workflow templates, and YouTube's internal hero, Hub Help Video Framework.
Plus some really fascinating case studies.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Coterie Theater in Kansas City and Impassy's Endless Customer Scorecard.
So we are mapping the entire journey here, from defining the core DNA of what your brand actually says to, matching that message to the perfect format, building a bulletproof workflow, and finally diagnosing if the whole ecosystem actually drives revenue.
Which is the most important part.
Absolutely. So before you open a content calendar or shoot a single frame of video, you have to establish what you actually stand for. And that brings us to the architecture of content pillars.
Right, because if you approach your content without fillers,
Yeah.
your messaging just inherently becomes fragmented.
Right.
You end up reacting to whatever the trend of the day is rather than, actually building authority.
So how should we visualize these pillars?
Well, think of content pillars as the structural columns holding up your brand's narrative.
Mm.
Like if your business were a magazine, these pillars are the recurring sections that your audience just implicitly trusts you to deliver week after week.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, the sources from Equinet Academy detail 7 distinct types of pillars. But looking through the research, it seems like 3 of them carry the vast majority of the weight for modern brands.
Yeah, definitely those top 3.
So I want to dissect the mechanics of those, starting with the educational pillar. Because, education sounds simple on the surface, but doing it effectively is, well, it's incredibly complex.
It is. The fatal flaw most brands make with the educational pillar is confusing. Actual education with just a massive data dump.
Just throwing a textbook at the audience?
Exactly. True educational content moves the audience from a state of confusion to a state of clarity. It lowers the cognitive load.
Give me an example of that in practice.
So take the Singaporean brand, the Woke Salaryman. They're highlighted in our sources. They target Gen Z and millennials with personal finance content.
And personal finance, especially stuff like tax codes or retirement funds, is just notoriously difficult to make engaging for a 20-something.
Oh, it's incredibly dry.
Yeah.
But they bypass the traditional jargon-heavy blog post entirely. Instead, they use these highly engaging illustrated webcomics to explain CPF investing, which is the Central Provident Fund in Singapore.
Oh, wow. Comics for retirement investing.
Yeah. By using visual chunking and narrative storytelling, they take this really intimidating bureaucratic system and make it instantly digestible.
That's brilliant.
They aren't just telling you what to do, they're providing visual mental models that empower the audience to actually apply the knowledge.
I love that.
Yeah.
You build massive trust when you make your audience feel smarter, but, that logic only takes you so far. Which forces us to look at the second one, the inspirational pillar. Because if education is about the brain, inspiration targets the gut. It's the emotional connection. And the research points to the Golden Duck as a prime example here. They're a wildly successful snack company, famous for salted egg yolk chips.
They are an absolute masterclass in how to engineer inspiration. Because, when companies try to be inspirational, they usually default to this glossy, heavily sanitized highlight reel of their success.
Everything is awesome all the time.
Exactly. But Chris Wang, the founder of the Golden Duck, did the exact opposite during the pandemic. He utilized the inspirational pillar by exposing his absolute worst moments.
Wait, really? What did he do?
He publicly detailed the fact that he was literally selling off his own personal cars and laying off friends just to keep the underlying business afloat.
Wow. That's incredibly vulnerable.
It is, but the psychology here is vital. Consumers are fundamentally skeptical of corporate perfection.
Right.
When a brand openly shares the devastating trade-offs and the actual human cost of their survival, they stop being a faceless vendor. They become a vulnerable, relatable human entity.
Because inspiration doesn't come from seeing someone win effortlessly. It comes from watching someone navigate failure and survive.
Precisely.
Okay, so you have clarity from the educational pillar, deep empathy from the inspirational pillar. That brings us to the most controversial of the three, the promotional pillar. And I have to push back on this entirely.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because the prevailing wisdom in modern marketing is that audiences have this hypersensitive radar for being sold to, and they just absolutely hate it.
Right.
So shouldn't a modern brand just focus 100% on giving away free value and let the product sell itself?
Well, it's a massive misconception that audiences hate promotional content.
Really?
Yeah, audiences hate lazy promotional content. They hate friction, and they hate being screamed at. The standard framework here is the 80-20 rule.
Okay, remind me how that breaks down.
So 80% of your output is value-driven, the education and inspiration we just discussed, and the remaining 20% is strictly promotional. But the mechanics of that 20% have evolved dramatically.
So how does a brand actually run a promotion today without alienating the trust they just spent, 80% of their time building?
You have to merge the promotion with a tangible experience.
Mm.
Look at the L'Oreal Singapore campaign from our case studies. During the pandemic, they partnered with Lazada for a Bring Beauty Back campaign.
Okay.
The lazy approach would be, just flooding social media with static images of lipstick with a big buy now button.
Right, just blasting ads everywhere.
Exactly. Instead, they deployed interactive live streams with real-time makeup tutorials, and they fully integrated augmented reality try-on filters.
Oh, wow. So that shifts the dynamic completely. You aren't just looking at a model wearing the makeup. The AR filter effectively turns the consumer's own smartphone into a digital dressing room.
Exactly. The viewer goes from a passive target to an active participant.
And I'm guessing it worked.
The data proves it. Lasmall reported sales uplifts of up to 25 times their baseline during this campaign.
25 times. That's insane.
It is. Because promotional content works incredibly well when it vividly and interactively demonstrates how the product integrates into your life, rather than just acting as a digital billboard.
Okay, so we have a solid theoretical foundation. We know the themes we need to hit to build trust and drive sales. But, a transparent founder story or a brilliant educational comic basically dies on the vine if you bury it in a poorly formatted PDF on page 4 of your website.
Oh, absolutely. Format is everything.
The delivery mechanism dictates the impact. And right now, video is the undisputed king of delivery. Yet, looking at the HubSpot and YouTube materials, it seems like most companies approach video strategy entirely backward.
Completely backwards.
They sit in a boardroom and ask, what video should we make?
Which basically guarantees a fragmented, disjointed user experience. The strategic question is not what video should we make. The question is, what specific friction in the buyer's journey does this video need to eliminate? And YouTube actually internally developed the Hero Hub Help Framework to answer this exact question. It forces you to organize your video ecosystem based on purpose, not just production value.
So let's reverse engineer this framework because I feel like it completely changes how you allocate resources. Starting at the top, hero content.
Hero content is designed purely for maximum reach and massive brand awareness. These are your flagship assets. High production value, super wide appeal.
So we're talking big budgets here.
Usually, yes. And you only deploy this 1 to 4 times a year. Think of a high-end brand documentary or maybe a visually stunning product launch. In the marketing funnel, this maps directly to the awareness stage. It grabs the attention of people who don't even know they have a problem yet.
I love this. It's like the summer blockbuster movie. The studio spends a fortune on it, the trailer's everywhere, and it's designed to pull massive crowds into the theater on opening weekend.
That's a great way to look at it.
But a movie studio can't survive producing only one movie a year, which brings us to the hub content.
Right. Hub content is the recurring engine of your brand. If hero content grabs their attention, hub content earns their loyalty.
So what does that look like in practice?
These are your ongoing video podcasts, your behind-the-scenes series, or weekly industry roundups. The production value is lower than a hero asset, but the consistency is absolute.
Got it.
This maps to the consideration stage. It keeps your brand top of mind while the buyer is evaluating their options.
Okay, so if Hero is the summer blockbuster, Hub is the weekly television show. You tune in every Tuesday at 8 p.m. because you've developed a parasocial relationship with the characters, you trust the format, and it just becomes a habit.
Exactly. And that consistency builds an incredible moat against competitors. But eventually, that viewer needs to actually make a purchasing decision. And that is where help content becomes critical.
The third pillar.
Yes. Help content is hyper-specific, highly tactical, and driven entirely by search intent.
So this is where you basically abandon broad storytelling and just answer the mail?
Precisely. FAQs, unboxing videos, software tutorials, step-by-step setup guides, and the topics for your help content shouldn't come from some creative brainstorming session.
Where should they come from?
They should come directly from the transcripts of your customer service and sales calls. Like, what are the specific objections preventing a sale? You make a video solving that exact problem, it maps directly to the decision stage.
Okay, so to complete the analogy, help content is the instructional manual you keep in the glove box of your car.
Oh, I like that.
Right. You don't read it for fun on a Sunday afternoon. You only pull it out when a warning light flashes on your dashboard, and you need a highly specific solution immediately.
Yes, exactly.
But the point is, if you only make blockbuster movies, you bankrupt your company. If you only make instructional manuals, you never build an emotional connection. You have to balance the ecosystem.
You really need all three operating simultaneously. But, maintaining that ecosystem requires a ruthless operational machine.
Which is the perfect pivot. Because a gorgeous hero, hub, help strategy, living on a whiteboard is completely useless if the assets just get trapped in someone's inbox waiting for approval.
Oh, the dreaded approval inbox.
Right. If you don't have a hardened workflow, your editorial calendar just becomes a museum of missed deadlines.
Execution is absolutely where the vast majority of marketing teams bleed revenue. The default behavior is to spin up a standard Kanban board.
Yeah.
The typical to-do, doing, done columns, and just assume that constitutes a process.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the automated templates, and they argue fiercely against standard Kanban for content teams. Why do those broad columns fail at scale?
Because content creation is highly collaborative, and it's entirely dependent on sequential handoffs. Like, if a video is in the doing column, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, who's actually working on it?
Exactly. Is it being outlined? Is the talent filming it? Is it in post-production? Broad statuses just create a diffusion of responsibility. The automated framework suggests a rigorous 5-step workflow anchored by a non-negotiable SLA.
A service-level agreement.
Yes, specifically for approvals.
Because approvals are the bottleneck where all momentum goes to die. How does the SLA actually solve that?
By attaching, almost draconian time limits to every stage gate. The recommended baseline SLA dictates 48 hours for a draft to be completed once it's assigned, 24 hours to the editor's pass, and a maximum of 12 to 24 hours for final stakeholder approval.
And what happens if the stakeholder is busy?
Well, if a stakeholder doesn't approve it within that window, the workflow dictates it moves forward anyway, or the stakeholder takes personal responsibility for the missed publish date.
Wow, that forces incredible discipline.
It really does.
And you also structure your physical work week around these stage gates, right? According to the research, Monday isn't for drafting at all.
Nope. Monday is purely for performance review and topic prioritization. You analyze the data, and you select 1 to 3 anchor pieces, like a core hub podcast or a major educational blog post for the week.
Okay, so that's Monday.
Then Tuesday through Thursday is pure execution of the SLA, and Friday is reserved solely for quality assurance, checking links, and scheduling the assets.
It essentially creates a predictable manufacturing line for your ideas, but I do see a massive vulnerability in this, though.
Okay, what's that?
If I am operating a rigorous SLA and I have my anchor pieces mapped out 3 months in advance in a tool like StoryChief, I've essentially locked my brand in a straitjacket.
Right.
What happens when a massive industry trend breaks on a Tuesday morning? Or a competitor makes a huge move? I mean, I can't just ignore the market because my calendar is full.
And that exact vulnerability is why the most sophisticated teams utilize the 70-30 rule for calendar management.
Okay, walk us through the mechanics of that buffer.
So you only ever schedule 70 to 80% of your publishing capacity. That 70% is your evergreen content, your pillar support, your scheduled hero and hub assets. It is totally locked in.
And the rest?
You deliberately leave 20 to 30% of your capacity completely blank.
Wait, you essentially schedule empty space?
Yes, it is your reactive capacity. So when that industry trend explodes on a Tuesday, You don't have to derail the workflow of your anchor pieces. You simply drop a fast, tactical reaction piece into one of your open 30% slots.
Oh, that makes total sense.
It allows the brand to remain highly agile and relevant in the cultural zeitgeist without destroying the foundation of your long-term strategy.
Okay, let's pull this down from the theoretical and see it operate in reality. Because we have a fascinating case study in the sources regarding the Coterie Theater.
Oh, this is a great one.
Yeah, because it's really easy to build these ecosystems when you're a massive tech company with an unlimited budget. But what happens when a resource-strapped organization applies these exact principles?
Right. So the Coterie is a legacy nonprofit youth theater operating in Kansas City for over 4 decades. And they produce incredible educational programs, but they were facing this existential threat from multiple angles.
Like what?
Well, economic downturns were squeezing donor support. The broader entertainment space was fiercely competitive. And worse, they suffered from a major brand perception issue. Some of their premium programs were viewed as elite and just unapproachable to the average family.
So they needed to drive weekend ticket sales and boost class enrollment. But their legacy marketing tactics, broad awareness campaigns and physical mailers, they were yielding diminishing returns.
Exactly. So they realized their messaging was just far too broad. They stopped marketing to the general public and mapped out 6 hyper-specific personas.
Okay, who were they?
Families, parents, educators, donors, professional actors, and most crucially, the youth social user.
Meaning the actual teenagers and preteens who consume the programming.
Yes. Historically, a prestigious theater company would lean heavily into highbrow, highly polished hero content to impress their wealthy donors.
Right, trying to look fancy.
But the Coterie made a radical strategic shift. They realized the youth social user doesn't watch cinematic brand documentaries. They live on social media. So the theater pivoted their resources into producing raw 15 to 60-second vertical videos.
That's brilliant. The psychology of the vertical video format is exactly what we talked about with matching the delivery to the audience. Because for Gen Z, a polished horizontal video feels like a commercial. It feels top down and like corporate.
Yeah.
But a vertical video shot on a phone feels native. It feels peer-to-peer. The Coterie essentially abandoned the prestige play and went straight into the trenches with hub and help short-form content.
And they synchronized this with their workflow perfectly. They empowered their cast and staff to capture this native content, which dramatically lowered production bottlenecks. They optimized the captions for immediate action.
And didn't they redo their website, too?
They did. They redesigned their primary Support Us landing page. So instead of a text block just pleading for money, they integrated a testimonial video shot purely from a child's perspective.
What?
It mapped perfectly to their educational and inspirational pillars to emotionally move the donor persona.
It really is a flawless execution of the ecosystem. But, this brings up the ultimate question.
Okay, what's that?
You have your pillars, you shot your vertical video, you respected the 7D30 SLA workflow, and you targeted your personas. How do you objectively know if you're actually winning? Like, how do you measure if this content machine is generating revenue or just, generating likes?
And this is where we introduce the final framework from the research, the Endless Customer Scorecard, which was developed by Impact T.
I'm looking at the scorecard, and I have to admit, it is intimidating.
It's intense, yeah.
Because most marketers are used to pulling up a Google Analytics dashboard and looking at bounce rates or impressions. This scorecard seems to measure the underlying infrastructure of the entire company, from website tech to how the sales team operates.
Because marketing metrics in isolation are essentially vanity metrics. The scorecard is a diagnostic tool for business alignment. It measures 5 core pillars: the right content, the right website, the right sales activities, the right technology, and the right culture of performance.
Let's dig into the right content. The scorecard dictates that to score highly, a brand must be publishing what it calls the Big 5. What are the mechanics behind these 5 specific topics?
The Big 5 are the exact topics buyers obsess over before making a purchase, yet companies are terrified to talk about them.
Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, they are. Cost and pricing, problems and negative issues, comparisons, reviews, and best-in-class lists. Most companies hide their pricing and completely ignore their product's limitations.
Well, yeah, because they assume talking about price or admitting flaws will just scare the buyer away.
Right. But the buyer's going to search for that information regardless. And if you don't answer the pricing question, your competitor will, and they will win the trust.
That is such a crucial mindset shift.
It is. The scorecard also mandates the use of the Selling 7 videos.
Things like the 80% video and the bio video.
Exactly. An 80% video is a single asset that answers the core questions that make up 80% of a sales rep's typical introductory call. And a bio video introduces the specific salesperson to the prospect before they ever meet.
But wait, how do you actually force the sales team to use these videos? Because the classic tension in any company is that marketing spends a fortune producing videos, and the sales team completely ignores them because they just want to stick to their own pitch.
And that tension is exactly why the scorecard measures the right sales activities, specifically evaluating a tactic called assignment selling.
Assignment selling, that sounds like you're giving the buyer homework.
Basically, yes.
I can see major pushback here. If a prospect is finally ready to talk to sales, aren't you introducing massive friction by telling them to go watch a 10-minute, 80% video first? You're literally telling them to do work before you'll take their money.
I know it sounds super counterintuitive, but the psychology of assignment selling is profound. An uneducated buyer is a highly volatile prospect. They require multiple calls to understand the basics, they haggle on price, and they suffer from buyer's remorse.
True.
When a sales rep assigns an 80% video or a pricing guide before the consultation, they're setting a standard. The buyer arrives at the meeting already understanding the value proposition. It drastically shortens the actual sales cycle and significantly increases closing rates.
Ah, so it filters out the tire kickers.
Exactly.
So how is this scorecard actually implemented? Do you just hand it to the CMO and ask for a grade?
Absolutely not. The scorecard is a set of 10 prompts, scored quarterly, and it requires radical internal transparency. The assessment must be done collectively with leadership, marketing, and sales all in the same room.
Oh, I bet that's fun.
It takes a dedicated company 18 to 24 months of rigorous iteration to reach mastery, which is a score between 80 and 100 points.
Because the real magic of this scorecard isn't the final number, is it?
No, not at all.
The magic happens in the deeply uncomfortable arguments that occur when you force the team to score it.
Exactly.
If marketing confidently claims the website is a 9 out of 10, but the sales director says the leads coming from it are absolute garbage, the scorecard forces them to stay in the room and diagnose the actual systemic failure. It's essentially a diagnostic test for the company's immune system.
That's a perfect way to put it. It forces absolute alignment around a shared standard of excellence. You can't hide behind vanity metrics when sales and leadership are grading the exact same rubric.
Wow. Okay, we have dissected a tremendous amount of architecture today. Let's synthesize the blueprint for you. We began by establishing our content pillars, learning from the golden duck that exposing vulnerability and the actual cost of success builds infinitely more trust than corporate perfection.
Right. And we then explored the delivery mechanism, utilizing the Hero Hub Help framework to ensure we are systematically addressing the awareness, consideration, and decision stages of the buyer's journey rather than just guessing what video to make.
Then we took those ideas and forced them through an SLA-driven manufacturing line, utilizing stage gates to prevent bottlenecks, while preserving 30% of our calendar to react to the market without derailing our strategy.
We analyzed the Coterie Theater, proving that understanding the psychology of your persona-like swapping prestige content for raw vertical video to capture Gen Z is how you actually adapt and survive in a shifting economy.
And finally, we explored how to objectively diagnose the health of this entire ecosystem using the endless customer scorecard, embracing the big 5 content topics and assignment selling to align marketing output directly with sales revenue. Our goal today was to give you the operational blueprints to stop throwing spaghetti at the wall and start engineering a predictable machine.
The frameworks exist. The psychology is completely proven. The only variable left is the discipline to execute it.
So we want to leave you with one final provocative question to analyze on your own. It's time to turn on the lights in that kitchen. If you were to gather your marketing, sales, and leadership teams in a room tomorrow morning and force them to honestly fill out the endless customer scorecard, what single area would expose the most terrifying gap between what your brand claims to be and the friction your audience actually experiences?